What if I told you one of the most feared figures in the cocaine trade was a woman who built her empire in a world run by men? She didn't inherit power. She didn't marry into it. She carved it out with strategy, silence, and ruthless ambition. This is the story of Griselda Blanco, the woman they called the Cocaine Queen. Born in 1943 in Cartagena and later raised in Medellin, Griselda Blanco grew up in extreme poverty. The streets shaped her early. By her early 20s, she was already involved in criminal activity, learning how to move quietly, how to calculate risk, how to survive. But survival wasn't enough. She wanted control. And in the 1970s, she found her opportunity: cocaine. At a time when the U.S. market was exploding, Blanco saw something others didn't. Distribution was power, not just product. Routes, logistics, systems. She moved to the United States and began establishing connections in Miami, just as the city was becoming ground zero for the cocaine boom. The late 1970s and early 1980s would later be known as the Cocaine Cowboys era in Miami. Violence between trafficking groups was rising. But Blanco didn't just participate. She structured operations with military-like precision. She allegedly pioneered new smuggling techniques, hiding cocaine in creative ways to bypass airport security. She developed distribution networks stretching from Colombia to New York and Miami, and she built loyalty through fear and reward. Investigators later claimed her organization was responsible for dozens of violent incidents during Miami's drug wars. The period saw hundreds of drug-related killings citywide, though exact figures tied directly to her remain debated. What made her different wasn't just aggression. It was discipline. She reportedly kept detailed operational records. She replaced weak links quickly. She avoided unnecessary visibility until she couldn't, because power attracts attention, and attention attracts law enforcement. By the mid-1980s, U.S. federal agencies were intensifying efforts to dismantle major trafficking networks. In 1985, Blanco was arrested in California on federal drug trafficking charges. Her empire began to fracture without her direct control. She eventually received a lengthy prison sentence in the United States. For nearly 2 decades, she remained behind bars, removed from the empire she built. And in 2004, she was deported back to Colombia. For many, it seemed like the story had ended. But legacies like hers don't disappear quietly. If you're fascinated by the untold stories behind power, crime, and ambition, subscribe now to the Crime Dossier. Because history isn't always written by heroes. Sometimes it's written by those who ruled from the shadows. Griselda Blanco's influence stretched beyond her lifetime. Her operations helped shape early trafficking routes that later cartels expanded. Her story inspired documentaries, books, and dramatizations. But beyond the myth, there's a warning. The cocaine boom of the 1980s left scars on cities like Miami. Communities destabilized, violence normalized, systems overwhelmed. Blanco rose in a system fueled by demand, desperation, and opportunity. But the same system that lifted her eventually dismantled her. In 2012, she was shot and killed in Medellin, a stark reminder that the world she helped build was one where exits were rarely peaceful. Griselda Blanco wasn't just a trafficker. She was a strategist, a disruptor, a symbol of how ambition, unchecked, can reshape entire cities. Her name still echoes in true crime history, not as a legend to glorify, but as a cautionary tale. If you want more deep dives into the darkest chapters of real history, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and step inside the crime dossier. Because some empires weren't built to last. They were built to dominate. And domination always comes with a cost.